All right. And just so you all know, we are recording this meeting. It is also live streamed on YouTube. But again, go ahead and introduce yourselves in the chat. So excited to get this thing going. All right. All right, well, I'll go ahead. We'll get started here. Hi, everyone. Welcome again to DSA's Green New Deal Priority Campaign. My name is Kara. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm from Louisville, DSA in Kentucky. I'm on the steering committee and the comms chair for the Green New Deal campaign, and I am so psyched to have everyone here to welcome DSA's first ever Green New Deal slate. So a little rough kind of map of the evening here. To get started, we're going to hear from our strategy co-chairs about the vision and the long-term direction of our organizing. Then we'll walk through the campaign plan, how we're going to build and win power together. And along the way, we're going to hear from 5 future DSA elected officials about how we're going to win a Green New Deal. So let's do this. Here is Abiyat, one of our strategy co-chairs.
Thanks, Kara. I'm Abiyat. I use he, him pronouns. I'm one of our strategy co-chairs, and I'm a member of NYC DSA. So I want to start off by giving a shout out to all my homies in Brooklyn and New York, and a shout out to all of you, my 400 closest friends. Now, before we get too into the weeds of this campaign, let's start by just getting all on the same page and zooming out. What are we fighting for as socialists, and why a Green New Deal? So as socialists, we recognize that the fundamental dynamic of our society is a class warfare. The reason that people go bankrupt when they have cancer, it's the same reason they go bankrupt from their student loans. It's the same reason that our foreign policy is decided by Raytheon and Lockheed Martin, because the ultra wealthy in this country care about their profit more than they care about our humanity. And our capitalist system enables them to act that out. The socialist platform threatens that. It's revolutionary. When we talk about taxing the rich to pay for a Green New Deal, free healthcare and tuition, abolishing the military and the police, these aren't just policies. They fundamentally reorder our society and overthrows the oligarchy that controls it. The Green New Deal touches all of that. The Green New Deal isn't just climate. The Green New Deal means green public housing. It means free public transit. It means green public schools and colleges where the tuition is free and the air doesn't give your kids fucking asthma. It means demilitarization of the US military, which is the world's biggest polluter. And it means welcoming in the immigrants and refugees fleeing the climate disaster that we've caused. A Green New Deal is the socialist platform. And to win that platform, we need power. And let's just be real with each other. We don't have nearly enough for our most visionary goals. So we got to build it. And we build our power through our campaigns. When we run campaigns, we're not like, Democrats just trying to get to the next election or passing our, pet policy that we can stick on our website. When we're running campaigns, we're bringing in new people and we're mobilizing them. We're training them into organizers. We're using the concrete gains we win for working class Americans to build our legitimacy, bring in more DSA members, and build our power. Then we use that power to run bigger campaigns. We run campaigns to build our power, and we build our power to run campaigns. So let's pause for a second there and look back. At the national level, DSA spent a large part of 2016 to 2020 running the Bernie campaign. That was the crucible that we built our power to get us to where we are today. It was a crucible that the left was born in as we know it. When that ended, we ran the PRO-ACT and Green New Deal for Public Schools campaigns last year, which were these visionary pieces of legislation to win worker power. And that's how we've gotten to where we are right now. It's the world's biggest socialist organization with 100,000 members. This Green New Deal campaign is that next step. At last year's convention, we made this a priority because we made the strategic decision that the Green New Deal is how we as socialists are going to win power and win our vision. One of the really main strategic reasons for that is how well that we can build a Green New Deal from the ground up. A lot of our major pieces of legislation are these huge things that we need to like organize the entire federal government to do. But with a Green New Deal, we can break it down into smaller pieces. We can win small wins at the local and state level to build the power for medium wins, to build the power for our biggest, most visionary pieces of policy that's going to like build a socialist United States and a socialist world. We're going to tax the rich to pass Medicare for all, free college, BDS, and public housing. We're going to abolish the police and the military, and we're going to do it with the power we win from a Green New Deal. So I'm going to pass it off to my strategy co-chair, Mark, who's going to talk us through the how. How are we going to use this campaign to build our power and transition into the next phases of our future organizing?
Awesome. Thank you, Amia. My name is Mark. I use he, him pronouns. I'm from Los Angeles, and I'm going to give you an overview of this campaign and where this fight is leading us. So there are two phases to this campaign, and it starts with the Green New Deal slate. This evening, you'll hear from 5 of our comrades on the slate. And I want to take a moment, big shout out to Vanessa, Iyapa, Rachel, David, Tyler, and James, who are also hanging out with us on this call of over 420 DSA members and other folks just tuning in. I want to say like every DSA endorsed candidate is a champion for the Green New Deal. No question about it. But what we are doing here with this campaign is strategically supporting candidates where the possibility of winning the legislative pillars of the Green New Deal are most immediate. And to be very honest, the time to win Green New Deal legislation is now. We can't, and also we just can't win on the coasts. We need to have strategic interventions in the South and in the Midwest. And that is why I feel the candidates on the Green New Deal slate are the vehicle for Green New Deal legislative victories across the country. We have seen over the past few years, organizing and campaigning around federal labor and climate legislation is a monumental task that we must pursue, but our power is limited. This campaign aims to build the power necessary to return to these bigger national level fights by first strengthening and deepening our base and winning material victories at the local and state level. We build power by building our chapters. And with this campaign, we will have trainings for chapters and members interested in getting on board with this campaign and supporting. We will do trainings on how to set up campaign infrastructure locally, how to onboard new members into active organizing, how to keep members engaged and deepening their involvement through the full duration of our campaigns. And this part is so essential because we need to build a middle layer of cadre in our organization that are experienced in running mass campaigns and that are ready to take up the mantle, be leadership in their chapter, and be leadership of DSA more broadly. And finally, we need to learn how to recruit new members into our chapters and get existing members to recommit to DSA's vision of building an unstoppable mass movement of the working class. And with that recommitment, there is going to be a recommitment drive coming up on April 24th. There's going to be a launch call. I wholeheartedly encourage you to get plugged in with that campaign as well. The second phase of our Green New Deal campaign is delivering on and winning the labor climate legislation that you will hear about today. With these candidates, we're not only electing comrades from our movement, we're electing a platform and long-term vision for our organizing. This second phase will entail continued work with our chapters across the states to launch legislative campaigns so we can do things like pass the Build Public Renewables Act in New York and take back our power grid, expand RTD across Colorado so working class communities can enjoy clean air and fast transit, transform our housing, public schools, and create thousands of green union jobs from California to Kentucky. DSA's Green New Deal campaign is not a promise. It's a threat to the status quo. And I hope every single one of you on this call today is ready to get involved with this campaign. We're gonna fuck shit up, y'all. And I hope you'll come along with us. Let's do this.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Aviant and Mark. Now that we've got the framing, let's meet our slate. Our first Slate member of the evening is taking up the fight for a Green New Deal in Colorado. She's running for state office there as someone who has experience beating the capitalist class. Welcome, Elizabeth Epps.
Good evening, y'all. I'm Elizabeth Epps. I use she, hers pronouns. I'm so glad to be with you. I'm an abolitionist running to represent my community in the Colorado State House here in the land that we usually now call Denver. I'm an abolitionist, and if I could see you, well, I'm going to ask you anyway, but if I could see you, I'd be able to see your responses when I ask, are there any other abolitionists on our call? I hope so. As an abolitionist, I believe that all our neighbors deserve to be safe, healthy, and free. And I participate in electoral politics and have for decades because it is one of the ways that we can provide folks the resources and opportunities that they need to live safe, healthy, and free. As an abolitionist, of course, direct action and protest are critical ways, two of the critical ways that we work for liberation. In 2020, I was one of thousands of people who took to the streets to protest the extrajudicial killings of Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and others. And amongst the ways that police harmed us during those protests was by deploying chemical weapons on us, chemical weapons that harmed our eyes, our lungs, our skin. People's menstrual cycles were disrupted, and we may never know the full extent of what those weapons and similar chemical agents are doing to our waterways, our air, our soil, our flora and fauna. Our work then for a Green New Deal is part of a struggle for abolition of corporate carceral reliance on cops and courts and cages, a lot of C words there. But, prisons and jails are already a public health crisis, and they are an environmental crisis too. This is why we work through an abolitionist lens. It will not surprise you to know that many of the folks who were protesting on the streets of Denver and across this country and around the world in defense of Black lives are many of the same folks who are water protectors and who protest in defense of our planet and who are environmental activists. So litigation then, like electoral politics and like direct action, litigation is another way that we advance liberatory policy. And so after enduring days of abuse and excessive force on me and on other peaceful protesters, I sued. I filed what became the class action federal lawsuit of Epps et al. Versus City and County of Denver et al. Out of hundreds of lawsuits and many millions of dollars of settlements across the country, our lawsuit became the first one in the nation to actually go to trial. We did not settle, and we did reach a jury verdict. All of this happened, y'all, last month while I am in the fight of my life to win a state house seat. And after 15 days last month of being gaslit by the attorneys for the city I love so dearly, the federal jury found that indeed our First and Fourth Amendment rights were violated, that police use excessive force against us, and that the cost of that harm to us would be $1.25 million for me and a collective verdict for we 12 plaintiffs of $14 million. Y'all, I don't know if I'll ever see a dime. I'm sure the city will appeal because, as you know, by design, the state works to protect its own interests, works to protect corporate and carceral interests in ways that they do not work to protect Black and brown lives, that they do not work to protect our planet. But I know that when we fight, we win. I know that we who sued, we who protested, we who are working for a Green New Deal, we are on the right side of history. We cannot, I say this as someone with a law degree, we cannot sue our way out of police brutality, no more than we can sue our way out of massive corporations polluting our neighborhoods, our oceans, and our air. But while lawsuits alone aren't going to get us free, they are a critical part of our liberatory work. This is my first time as a candidate for elected office. I've never run, though I've knocked many hundreds, probably thousands of doors for other folks over the years. The work that leads me to run is decades of activism, of organizing, of working to keep folks free as a public defender. And while I've been being prepared for office, I am so excited to be in this space where I can learn from and be led by the work of organizers who know how to win campaigns, issue campaigns, and electoral campaigns. There are no known Democratic socialists in the Colorado legislature, not yet. And there's certainly no modern abolitionists in office here in Colorado, again, not yet. But this time next year, thanks to our work together, I'm going to be one of two. As a candidate, by signing up to run for office, I'm agreeing that it's my name on the ballot. But this isn't about me. It's about us. No one person is going to secure our liberation any more than any one tactic, protest or litigation or legislation or electoral politics. No one of those alone is going to bring us to our abolitionist future or save our planet. Local elections matter, y'all. I'm glad to be in this work together, from courtrooms to classrooms to our Capitol. I've been working to get and stay free to help my neighbors do the same. I've never done it alone. When we fight, we win. So on we press. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Yes, you are totally right. It's going to take a nationwide push, a mass movement to make a socialist Green New Deal a reality. Kicking off that push is what tonight is all about. Here to talk to you briefly about how you can plug into this fight is one of our leaders in the field, Fares.
Any pronouns are completely fine. I hail from Southern California and represent the Inland Empire chapter of DSA. I'm here to talk to you about campaign field and phone banking. And so I think the best way to look at it as in the summer of 2021, we were in the grips of a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic where workers were being told that they were the most valuable, the most essential, and at the same time feeling and facing some of the most horrific treatment that any workforce has ever really seen in our 21st century. We as DSA decided that it was time to run one of our first national campaigns, and we did. It was called the Protecting the Right to Organize Act. And what we did was we sought to pressure senators and House of Representatives members to pass a series of legislation that would empower workers to unionize from all manners, from gig work to any type of field, to protect themselves from the abuses in their workplace. And what we managed to do was place 1 million calls with a combined of 500 to 600 callers who were DSA members. We were able to get this in the mouth of Joe Manchin. We were able to get this in the mouth of the president. We were able to get this on the agenda, able to get unions and miners in West Virginia to pressure their senator to get this on the agenda. And that was our first national campaign. Now we're talking about another way of using phone banks and using volunteer phone banking and campaign fielding to elevate our electoral politics, to elevate the policies we want to implement, get those small, medium, and set up those large wins. So in order to win an election, a campaign needs to do two things. We need to raise money and we need to talk to voters and volunteers. So our field operation, phone banks, is how we do the latter. We're able to organize legislature pressure through the PRO Act. Well, now we're trying to mobilize people in the streets. And history has shown that has worked for us. If you look at Las Vegas being able to oust the Harry Reid machine, the former majority leader of the Senate, through mobilization. If you look at the fact that the ruling class was shivering because of what the Bernie campaign was doing, and the Bernie campaign was made up of people in this very room willing to canvass, willing to volunteer, willing to do everything that big money won't sponsor, and being able to put them on the back heel. That's what we're talking about in this discussion. And so what we're trying to do in Field Leads is dial chapter lists to mobilize canvassers. What you're going to be doing is you're going to be talking directly to comrades like yourself in Pennsylvania and Colorado and Kentucky and New York and all the states that we're running electors in, and telling them, hey, there's a race coming up. Here's a date. Here's an address. Here's a way that you can make a difference. We talk about socialism all the time online, but now let's go out and canvass and convince and persuade our community members that socialism is the means of helping the working class. And that's exactly what we want to do. We want to run phone banks that directly reach out to our own DSA membership, convince them and persuade them and direct them to these canvassing events to support our leadership. Because as we saw in the Bernie campaign, as we saw in Las Vegas, when we get boots on the ground, we get running pretty hard. And so what we're going to be doing is basically bringing the power and the capacity of national DSA to state level races, giving that backup, giving that emphasis. And so if this is something that interests you, if you're happy to turn out your fellow comrades, tell them how much you care about this candidate, how much you care about socialism and implementing it on the state and local level, I have a direct ask for you. Sign up for a phone bank. Our first phone bank is next week on Thursday, the 21st, and a following one on Friday. The times will be 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, or if you're an East Coast person, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with obviously Central Time. Not going to forget y'all, love y'all. Y'all are 1 hour behind Eastern time, which makes you 2 p.m. Eastern Central time. So if you would like, our field operation is not just about winning, it's about building power. We're not just going to be focusing on turning out people to canvases. We're going to be building direct relationships with all those members that we contact. We're going to keep them in mind when we move into phase 2. And we're going to ask them to develop into more than just phone bankers. And canvassers. We're going to ask them to be field leaders and precinct leaders. So that's my second ask. I'm asking you to sign up to be a field organizer, and you can come to the training, which will be on the 26th of this month. It's the Tuesday of the week after next. If you want to organize, if you want to learn the skills of organizing people, organizing DSA members, and creating advocacy for change, I highly ask you to come to our next 2 phone banks and to our field lead training, and you can make a difference, as we saw in Las Vegas, as we saw in the Bernie campaign, and as we saw in the PRO Act. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you so much, Faraz. Our next speaker is a longtime organizer and a fellow Louisville DSA member. Robert Bell is running for a seat in Kentucky State House of Representatives. These phone banks are how we ensure our candidates all across the country take down their corporate funded opponents. Here's Robert to tell you all about his campaign and how you can help out.
Hey, what's up, y'all? So I'm Robert Liberatore. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm coming to you from the great Commonwealth of Kentucky, the city of Louisville. I'm a longtime community organizer, public school teacher. I'm running to represent District 43 in Kentucky's House of Representatives. Longtime DA member. And, I just described Kentucky as a great state, a great Commonwealth, and it is great. It's a beautiful place, so with beautiful people, beautiful land, failed state, much like many of our states. A failed state of the red variety. Now, some might wonder, why do we even bother running a Green New Deal based campaign in a red state where the progressives and state government are both few and far between? Well, the answer is this. For too long, people have treated climate change, environmentalism in general, as boutique issues that only affect a few people. They're not relevant to people in red states, to working class people in general. This approach has been disastrous. It's been echoed by many so-called progressives who often see Black people specifically, most like people in rural areas, as to be engaged with on climate change. I've seen this all over the state of Kentucky. We don't talk about climate change. Even the Democrats, even the progressives don't talk about climate change to their constituents, and it's been disastrous. We can no longer kick the can down the road. Climate change is our present and our future reality. People everywhere understand this. The Green New Deal is an approach that changes all of this. It revolutionizes the way we approach climate change and environmentalism. It means marrying the fight against climate change, the fight for a livable future for our own and future generations, to the struggle for working people at their workplaces and elsewhere in their communities. Now, I do canvassing. That's what we do in DSA. I do a ton of canvassing. And when I speak to people on doors, to the multiracial voters in my district, Tool 1, they understand this. They get it. Yes, these are working class people. Yes, they're in a red state, but it's the devastating tornadoes, they read the news. They are afraid for their children's future, their grandchildren's future, and they want to know that fighting climate change can also mean better jobs, better schools, equity for themselves, a way out of this mess. Now, we can only do this, like I said, when we talk to people on our doors. That's what I say is great strength. We mobilize. We win on our message. We win on fundraising. So please click that donate link, that blue link. But we win. That's a key element of how we win this and every other DSA campaign. A key element of our field in this campaign is our phone banking. So through effective phone banking, we can bring our message all the way across the land. And like Faraz just said, we made over 1 million calls for the PRO Act. We could bring this energy to support this slate and to really talk about our message of a Green New Deal from coast to coast. So please sign up with that phone bank. Please help support this so that people know that the fight against climate change belongs to all of us. Regardless of where you are, you can join this fight because, as Elizabeth said a few minutes ago, we fight, we win. So donate. Once again, click that blue link. Donate. Get your friends to donate. And please sign up for these phone bank shifts. We have a world to win, y'all. Let's get it.
Great. Thank you so much, Robert. And thank you everyone who just signed up to Phone Bank. It is truly a foundational component to how we put socialists in office across the country. It's also how I first got engaged in this work. So it works, y'all. Go sign up. Next, we have another member of our steering committee here to tell us about another pillar to our success. Here's Sarah.
Hey everybody, I'm Sarah. I use she, her pronouns. I'm in St. Louis. Like Farah said, we have a campaign that we need to talk to voters and we need to raise money. So now we're here to talk about the money. We know as democratic socialists that fundraising does not exist outside of or separate from our organizing. It works hand in hand with our organizing, and it's how we build class independence. Because we're not funded by fossil capital like our opponents, we're reliant on thousands of donations from the working class. Raising money for these candidates protects them from the money the establishment and the corporate class can use against them. It makes our candidates dependent on us. Peer-to-peer fundraising in particular helps spread out those donations across networks. When everyone gives a little, it adds up to a lot. When you sign up to be a peer-to-peer fundraiser, you ask people you know to donate money to the campaign you're supporting. In order to convince them to donate, you end up working as an ambassador for the campaign, sharing with people you know and love why you care so much about your candidate winning and the work they're committed to do once they're in office. That's relational organizing. If this sounds a little daunting, don't worry. We have lots of materials to help you know who to ask, what to say, how to say it, and when. So peer-to-peer fundraising. We're raising money, we're educating folks about the campaign, asking our friends and family to take a personal stake in our campaign and to solidify their support. We're setting up peer-to-peer fundraising for all of our candidates, and one of our candidates, David Alexis, has a peer-to-peer drive starting in just a few days. You can sign up in the chat to beat the Joe Manchin of New York. Click on that link. But I also want to give a shout out to how exciting and fun the peer-to-peer fundraisers are. They're a really great way to bond with other volunteers. You're going to be fundraising alongside a cohort of other like-minded folks, getting trained together on best practices, attending weekly check-ins to share success stories and to offer encouragement, and getting frequent reports from the campaign on your progress so that you can thank your donors. Signing up to be a peer-to-peer fundraiser is just a 2-week commitment max. You'll set an initial goal for what you think you can get your network to contribute, and then you'll be given your very own Act Blue page to send to your friends and family. From there, you start contacting people you know through emails, through calls and texts, making the initial ask and following up as needed. If you're really organized, you can knock out your goals in just a few days. This is really a case where a little work, just a few hours over a couple of weeks, goes a long way. Please sign up at the link in the chat to get plugged into peer-to-peer fundraising operations for your closest campaign. We really need your help. And back to you, Kara.
Great. Thank you so much, Sherry. Yes, I totally agree. Not only are we raising money to take on the capitalist class and to create class independence, but we're having conversations with our friends, with our family, and our neighbors about how they can be a part of this fight too. Our next candidate is running for Pennsylvania's state Senate and has spent years building power for workers. As a public school teacher, Paul Prescott is fighting for the schools both students and teachers deserve.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Paul Prescott. I'm a public school teacher, a union activist, and now candidate for Pennsylvania State Senate. I was motivated to run for office by my experience teaching in Philadelphia's public schools. And there's no greater example of austerity than the defunding of our public school system across the nation. And this is an environmental issue as well. The average age of Philly public school buildings is 70 years old. And we as teachers are often teaching in school buildings infested with mold, with lead and asbestos. So this is an environmental as well as a public health issue. And we are building a powerful coalition in this campaign. And I will always identify as a member of the labor movement first, than being a political candidate. We have endorsements not just from organizations like DSA and the Sunrise Movement, but also 9 labor unions representing all kinds of workers, Teamsters, postal workers, city workers, railway workers, school support staff. Working people are rallying around this campaign because this is about building a better future for working people, and the Green New Deal is an essential part of that. Pennsylvania is a battleground state for environmental politics. Our state is one of the largest fracking states in the country, and our natural gas companies do not pay a dime in taxes to the state. My opponent is just one of just 4 Democrats in the state to vote against making the frackers pay their taxes. He is funded by literal right-wing billionaires, school privatization PACs, and fossil fuel companies. We need to be able to counter that money with our own grassroots money, independent of corporate interests, which is why the donations you all make tonight are so important. My opponent does not think he needs to talk to voters or to really work in this election. He thinks he can rely on his money and we won't be able to match it. So we need to prove him wrong. And we cannot miss the opportunity of this moment. The environmental crisis is too dire to be kicked down the road any longer. A substantial portion of my district exists on a floodplain, and each year the flooding is getting worse and worse. But this is our once in a lifetime opportunity to transform our energy infrastructure and create tens of thousands and eventually millions of good paying union jobs in the process. Expanding public transit, retrofitting our buildings and our school buildings, geothermal, wind, solar energy, climate mitigation. Now is the time to do it all and do it in a way that puts workers in the driver's seat. And as we expand the pool of labor and expand apprenticeship programs, we can deal with historical problems like exclusion of women and people of color in the building trades. And organizations like DSA are so important to this fight because we know in order to achieve this, we're going to need to take on entrenched wealth and power, to center planning for human needs instead of the market for private profit. So thank you all for being here, and I look forward to working with you all on this campaign. So please make a donation, sign up to volunteer. This is how we're going to advance a Green New Deal state by state across this country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paul. You are totally right. If we are going to compete and win, we are going to need a full mobilization of the working class, donating whenever, whatever they're able to. Now, many of you might be asking, what happens after we win these races? How do we build power from there? Steering Committee member Purnima is here going to briefly tell us a bit about how we build on these races.
Awesome. Thanks, Kara. And hi, comrades. My name is Purnima, like Kara said. I'm also on the steering committee of this campaign and on the chapter organizing committee. And I'm specifically helping out with the onboarding side of things. So I just wanted to run through why it's especially important for our campaign. Onboarding is how we bring people in. And simply put, the bigger our capacity is, the more voters we can talk to, which is the most important part of this phase of the campaign. So we've developed an onboarding bootstrap kit that we will use to coach chapters that need it, to set up regular onboarding drives that send new people to canvases with a buddy and introduce them to our work. Because one of our main goals as a national committee is to build local chapter capacity, and onboarding does that in a lot of different ways. First off, it's a great way to make our spaces more welcoming and more accessible. Members, whether new or not, can feel a little bit confused about where they can actually help, where they can plug in. Onboarding not only provides them with direct opportunities to get involved, but also a person in the chapter they can now actually feel connected to. Participation in a political organization is generally socially motivated. I mean, I went to my first YDSA chapter meeting because a friend invited me to, and most of the work I've done since then is because someone I know asked me to do it. So having an onboarding process to welcome people from the moment they want to get involved makes all of this a lot more intentional and makes sure we can all feel a lot more closer to the movement. Similarly, onboarding also works as a way to develop leaders within the already active membership. The comrades that are going to do onboarding will get trained on and get experience with essential organizing skills, such as one-to-one conversations, list building, script writing. And through that, chapters will be able to expand their leadership capacity as well. So overall, it's a great way for chapters to give and get support from their membership, and we're super excited to provide this support for our target chapters. But we're super happy to share our resources with any DSA member to use in your chapter and your campaign. So just reach out to us through email or any social media, or you can plug into our campaign through the links that are being dropped. Also, throughout the duration of this campaign, we will also be onboarding folks to the national committee. As you all know by now, this electoral campaign is just the first step towards winning a Green New Deal for all of us. So we want to be sustainable and have the long-term vision in the back of our minds at all time, and make sure everyone who gets involved also feels the same way and wants to join us for the long term as much as they're able to. which gets us to another big component of all of this, the membership drive at the end of the campaign. Every single candidate on the GND slate has committed to assisting in their chapter in a post-campaign membership drive on their supporters. So we have a bootstrap kit for that too. And that's how we're going to use this campaign to organize new people into DSA to build power for phase 2. Because again, all of us are aiming for things much, much bigger than this campaign. And the only way we're going to get there is by building power. And how do we build power? By bringing people in. So let's make sure we turn every interested person we encounter during this campaign that we can into a DSA member, because the bigger we are, the more power we hold. So with that, if you live close to any of these campaigns that we've mentioned so far and are interested in learning more and helping out with the onboarding process and membership drives, please use the link that Nafis will be dropping in a second. And I'll now pass it on to you, Kara. Thank you again. Thank you all for being here. Super excited.
Thank you so much, Purnima. So we are going to very quickly start a poll here to see who is already in DSA. So it should pop up on your screen here. If you haven't joined DSA yet, you can choose that, but you could also join DSA, go for it. If you're a member of a DSA or YDSA chapter, you can choose that. And if you're an at-large DSA member, it means you don't have a chapter where you live or you're just kind of on your own in the at-large, you can choose that as well. So go ahead and fill out that poll. Super excited and just totally inspired by how so many of you all are here and ready to fight for this Green New Deal and get these folks elected. We know we can't only rely on DSA, people joining DSA on their own for us to grow, for our power to grow with it. We need to make membership drives part of everything that we do. That said, we're also going to have a ton of fun doing it. Our next candidate, Hugo Soto Martinez, is running for LA City Council and has so many stories about the excitement their team is seeing on the ground. Hugo, it would be great to hear about your campaign and how your team is having such captivating conversations.
Hey everyone, friends, comrades from across the country. Hope everyone's doing well. My name is Hugo. I'm a long-standing DSA member here in Los Angeles. But I've also been a union organizer here in the city for the last 15 years. And I just want to give a little bit of background on why this race is super important. So, different cities have different systems of government. And in the city of Los Angeles, we have what's called a weak mayor system. Places like Chicago or Houston or Miami, New York, right? The mayor plays a huge role in deciding the budget. Some even have control over the school board. In the city of Los Angeles, completely different. The mayor does not set the budget. It's ultimately voted by city council. And everything that's created or developed or put into each individual district, 100% of that discretion is left to the city council member. And so essentially what we have is 15 mini mayor systems. Yes, we only have 15 representatives, even though the city is about 4 million people. Chicago, which has 1 million people less, have 35 more people representing the people of the city. And so we are fighting against one of the most conservative council members who has voted against the electrification of buildings, who's decided to criminalize the unhoused, has not built a single foot of protected bike lanes in his district, even though this district is probably the most progressive district in the city of Los Angeles. This is a district that voted about 70% for Bernie Sanders, more than any other district in the city. And so what we're doing when we're talking to canvassers, when we're talking to folks, we're talking to voters in the street, we're talking to them in their houses, we're canvassing, we're tabling, whatever it may be, we are giving them a vision of what Los Angeles should be. We are talking about centering workers. We're talking about taking the largest public utility, which is the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, and turning those into green jobs, electrification of buildings, putting out bike lanes, and unionizing workers all across the industries here, including Starbucks and Hollywood. Even some sex workers are organizing in the city of Los Angeles. And so I'm very happy to say that because of this message, because of this vision that we are putting for folks, up until this point, we have had over 1,000 people sign up to be volunteers. Yeah, that's right, over 1,000. We have had dozens and dozens of events of people coming out. This campaign, I think because of the coalition we're building, is endorsed by DSA, by Sunrise Los Angeles. We're endorsed by over 15 labor unions, including UTLA, which is the teachers union, the United Steelworkers, my union, Unite Here Local 11. We're even endorsed by some of the most progressive candidates going against the incumbent. And so, but I think we've touched a lot about this in a different cause, but it's like, what do we do this, right? And I always tell folks, we do this the same reasons why we build the union, right? When we build the union, it's not about the individual, it's about centering the collective and how we can create a permanent vehicle for change. When workers win the union, not only do they win great stuff and they win respect, but that shop, that workplace becomes a place where workers continue to be radicalized, continue to fight capital, and continue to grow in their leadership. That's why I love union organizing. But what we're doing in this campaign is taking the same approach. We are bringing in volunteers. We are training them. We are teaching DSA all these skills that are needed to have a robust political machine, but again, always centering the organizers and development of the leaders. And so, and we're telling folks very straight up, this isn't about the candidate, this isn't about the person, but how can we connect all the disparate elements that traditionally have been separate, right? And bring them together under one single banner that unites the progressive movement in Los Angeles. Now, it might come as a surprise, but organized labor has been in the city for about 35 years. They've been doing really great work. And Unite Here, a union, is one of those unions that sort of led on the progressive front for labor organizing. But in the last 7 years, and I think all of you have been a part of this since Theo Bernie, right? Bernie Sanders started running. All of a sudden, we see oxygen being put into the street, oxygen being put into a fire that is lighting, that is talking about socialism in our city. This, my friends, is the first time that both of those movements have come under one single campaign. And so I have a lot of hope that for the first time, labor, organized labor, and the socialist movement that has been building in the city of Los Angeles is going to come together. We are going to defeat one of the most conservative council members in this district, and we're going to elect one of our own. And I think this could be a model that we can transplant to the rest of the state and the rest of the country, because we know when we bring all those elements together, we are unstoppable. And so I just want to say thank you so much. Remember, we got to keep organizing, keep developing, keep pushing, keep fighting. And I'll kick it back off to the MC. Thank you so much.
Wow, that is truly inspiring, Hugo. I cannot believe it. 1,000 volunteers, that is amazing. We talked about how we're growing. We talked about how we're reaching people who are recognizing the crimes of capitalism. Next up from New York City, we have our friend Tefa to talk about the program that they've put together that's uniting the multiracial working class.
¿Me ven y me escuchan? Can you guys see me? Es que yo no me puedo ver, entonces si no me veo, pues no los veo. Pero bueno, muchas buenas noches, Hugo. Muchas ganas. Let's win this together. Let's put some, walk the walk, Let's make some donations. Let's make sure that we are doing the work. Why? ¿Cuántas personas, how many Latino speakers are there in the United States? 41.8 million. The second biggest Spanish-speaking population in the world after Mexico. Es extremadamente importante, no? It's so important that we organize Latinos, but it has a further rippling effect when we talk about language justice and being able to build the mass movement, the multiracial mass movement that we need to be able to win a Green New Deal and beyond that, build the socialist project. Quiero darle las gracias en este momento, tomarme un momento para darle las gracias to all los latinos, incluyendo a IAPA, that now is part of this Slate, que han hecho posible that we have tried and built this infrastructure so that we can continue to create and harness the energy that we need to from the immigrants that are in the front lines of the climate crisis that is affecting them every day. Not only the climate crisis, but the economic crisis that existed already before COVID, and that now it's going to continue to put them at harm's way in a really horrible, horrible system. And so I want to also give a shout out to our friend Shay, who has been inspired by the work that we've done with Latino Socialistas and has started doing Mandarin speaking canvases and phone banks for IAPA here in New York City. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about how do we inspire each other? How do we get each other to fire up and fight? Because people are dying. It's either we fight to build or we are going to burn. And so this is the moment through this electoral work. We have an opportunity to have conversations with people that are getting politicized and tell them there is a space for you. And that space is here with us to fight together. The unity needs to be created through all of these systems. Eso es todo, lo tenemos que hacer. El momento es ahora, ahora mismo. And this is not just the job of los Latinos or the POCs, or no, this is everyone's job. Todos tenemos que hacer nuestra parte. You know people that are your friends that could be part of Latino Socialistas or that could be starting a phone bank for someone that speaks Bangladesh. And you should inspire that person. And we are creating systems and we are creating and developing these campaigns so that they also become organizers. Because the only way that we're going to move forward is by creating organizers and putting up leaders, personas que ya son líderes. These people are already leaders of their communities, para que las traigan a sus comunidades so that they bring them with them and we win together. So we're walking the walk, we're fighting the fight, and it is right now. And we have to do it with our dollars and with our bodies. No hay tiempo. El tiempo se acabó. This is late. We are late. This is a crisis. People are dying. The immigration crisis is directly related to climate and economic exploitation. And immigrants know that. And they deserve to be in the front lines of fighting back and having all of our support to do so. So please make sure that you and all of the people around you understand that nobody's going to save us from this but ourselves. And that we can do it together. But we have to do it together. Okay, so thank you so much. And I just want to say one more time, thank you to every Latino that has been part of these 2 years of brainstorming, building, and know that things take time, but when we do them with dedication, con intencionalidad, we can change the world, and we are going to change the world. So, como dice nuestro amigo Che, it's not about donde nacemos, it's not about where we're born, it's not about where we die, but it's about where we fight. And we're fighting here right now for a Green New Deal that will have rippling effects across the world and is going to save lives. Thank you so much for being here today.
Wow, that is just incredibly inspiring. Thank you so much, Tefa. I've got to say that the program that the Latino Socialistas have put together is really one of the most inspiring projects that I've seen in DSA. And as you can see, there is so much that's going on behind the scenes that you can help out with. You can jump in, you can do it. So join us, volunteer with us. Our comrade and co-chair of our research committee, Nafis, is focused on building and spreading our vision for a Green New Deal. Take it away, Nafis.
I am so sorry. Anyway, let's try this one more time. So excited to be here, and shout out to my Philly comrades, to my Green New Deal comrades, and everybody out here. Today is a great day to launch this call. It's the Bengali New Year. So Shuno Varsho to all you comrades. Thank you again for being here. When the Green New Deal first came out, it was an open field, a lot of information, a lot of talk about what it is, what it isn't, and what it could be. And DSA is building the most radical version of it. But how are we doing this? We are so fortunate. We're so lucky to have some very smart people in DSA whom we have recruited to research and build policies on all the aspects of society that working class people and workers face oppression in the intersection of what is climate justice, right? The Green New Deal, as Abhiyan said, is not just one thing. All politics are climate politics. The Green New Deal encompasses everything, right? So our goal is twofold. One, what we want to do is pass Green New Deal style legislation at city and state level that address issues like transit, housing, workers' rights, air pollution, et cetera, because we can't wait for Congress anymore. We can't wait for Joe Manchin and his cronies to be coddled by centrist Democrats. We need to build power from grassroots up. We're going to use all that's available to us, existing grants from federal agencies. Biden's infrastructure bill will create our own funding streams at the state level so that we can pass these policies. And we're going to take it, we're going to press the Congress to pass the big stimulus we need because they won't have any other choice. The next thing we want to do is we want to establish and replicate the socialist in office committees. And why is that? It's because our candidates and our electeds in office need our help. They are going to be inundated by all these random or legislation that are going to try and sneak in ways to keep oppressing the working class. So we need to help them decode all of that, summarize all of it, and champion their own bills. Right? So we want to be able to push our own policies that champion the interests of the working class. That's why we're creating a policy development arm for DSA for candidates and chapters to tap into. If you have interest in any of these things, if you have some idea of how to write a policy, if you want to do some research with us, please join the team by signing up in the link being dropped in the chat, or I will drop in the chat because I've been doing that for a while. But yeah, let's do this. Let's win it together, and looking forward to building this movement with everybody here. Thank you. Gonna pass it off to Kara.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nafis. Yes, we are going to do this together. And I am also playing kind of a dual role here. I am also the comms co-chair for our Green New Deal work. And we're here to do two things. We're here to communicate our vision and our values, and also to raise a ton of money. So if you haven't donated yet, now's a good time. Donate to the Act Blue link. But in comms, it's not just social media. I mean, it's definitely part of it. Don't get me wrong. But like Nafis said, a platform doesn't do anything if no one knows about it. So we're going to blast it, and we're going to blast it far and wide. We're going to make sure everybody knows what it is that we're talking about, what we stand for, and why we need to elect these candidates and all DSA candidates. We're also leading the charge, directing the narrative. So the capitalist cronies that Nafis talked about, they're not the ones that are twisting reality and telling their version of the story, telling the world what they want to hear, while we're all burning and drowning at the same time. Communications is ongoing work. It doesn't stop. It keeps going. So we need your help. So if you are a writer, if you're a designer, if you are a videographer, if you love being on Twitter, if you love making memes and have the jokes, join us. Come join me in the comms committee. We would absolutely love to have you. As I mentioned, there are two things that the comms committee does. A big part of that is fundraising. Sarah said it before, we'll say it again. The laws that govern our lives depend on the whims of the rich. It is time for us to build some class independence, and how we can do that is by raising some grassroots dollars for our candidates so that they can kind of help pass these laws, make things happen. We're going to go ahead. We're going to drop this donation link a couple more times. I highly encourage you. We're going to be blowing up the donation links, not just tonight, but throughout the campaign, making sure that we are raising money for our Slate candidates. So go for it. Do it. donate a couple bucks, whatever you can. Now, the last candidate for the night, and most definitely not least, is Sarahana Shrestha. Welcome.
Hello, can you guys see me? Awesome. All right, so my name is Sarahana Shrestha. I am running for New York State Assembly in Mid-Hudson Valley, which is one of the districts that turns out has just been coasting, where the representatives are doing very little because this is not a district that has a lot of eyes on it from the outside. And what we have found out from, already having knocked 10,000 doors through very long driveways and sometimes very arduous country roads, is that Mid-Hudson Valley is really ready to lead. It's ready to lead not just New York and making sure that New York can get the Green New Deal that it wants, but also is ready to lead so that New York can become a model government that can really support our coalition throughout the country and, win on big things like universal healthcare, like the Green New Deal, like public power. And it turns out that in Mid-Hudson Valley, there have been, people have been waiting for something like this for a long time, but they have been told repeatedly that, it's just something that happens in big cities. Socialism is for New York City. It's not for the Hudson Valley. And it turns out it's completely wrong. People are absolutely hungry for really, I have met, 80-year-olds who are so excited to find out that a Democrat socialist is running for a state office in their district. And so this is a district that's absolutely hungry for change, hungry to lead. And that's what we're doing here is we are running a socialist race in quote unquote upstate to really show that this is a movement that is of the moment, and anything less is late, like Tefa said. We really need to step up. Time is running out and we are ready to step up. We are claiming our space, not just in our democracy, but in this world to really try out what we want to try out, because we have not been given that chance. We have really been robbed of that chance, and we are not going to wait around to be given our turn. We're going to fight this ourselves because we have people on our side. We have a coalition on our side. I am running against an incumbent who's been in office for almost 29 years. I was in a meeting with him early on in the campaign where he told our local Democratic committee that the whole country was behind my race, that there was a whole movement behind my race. And I said, thank you, that is absolutely correct. DSA, members root for DSA candidates the whole country over. This is not just about one district. This is not just about one state. This is about taking our power back in every state, in every city, and eventually the whole world. So that's what we really want to do. We want to change the narrative of what's possible, because we have been operating in the realm of the impossible, as I like to say, is because apparently everything we need is too big, too impossible. And you only hear this coming out of the establishment. You do not hear it at the doors. You do not hear it on the streets. So we are going to change the narrative, and that's we're going to hold our ground, because we cannot change the story of what's possible. We have to absolutely have authority over what's possible, because we're the ones who are going to do it. We're the ones who are going to fight for it. And we're going to make sure that when we meet people where they are, we are taking their fear, we're taking their hope, and we are turning into action, because that's what organizing really is. We cannot have people be, overwhelmed with dread and really this, sometimes negative energy that comes out of overwhelming fear. We have to absolutely turn that into momentum and energy for our movement. And we're going to do this through elections in this case, because that is how we, can encounter a lot of people and really talk about issues. Here in New York, we are fighting for build public renewables. We're fighting for public power. In Hudson Valley, we have a private utility called Central Hudson. When we go to the door now, everybody wants to talk to us about Central Hudson. a couple of weeks ago, I told a room full of non-DSA members that we were going to buy out Central Hudson, and they cheered, you know. And today I was canvassing earlier in Woodstock. I was invited into a house, and the person was like, I have a question for you. Why can't we buy Central Hudson? And I said, we're absolutely going to buy Central Hudson, and we're going to win public power. We have been saying a Green New Deal begins with public power, and that's what we're trying to show in New York. Spatially, geographically, we're in a very tough district. It is a huge district with, you know, where the canvases are going to be really like hikes, but we're going to do it. We're going to, you know, as many doors as we can, even if it's a single cabin on the top of a mountain or whatever it is. And we're going to talk to people about exactly these issues, and we're going to bring them into the movement, and we're going to win this, and we're going to win it for the right reasons on the right platform. And then after that, we're going to run more people. So I'm very excited to be part of this slate, of the New York slate, of the, you know, National Green New Deal slate, because I think being a piece of the bigger movement is our strength, and I am pumped. So thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sharhana. So I'm going to pass it over to Abhiant here to close us out.
What's up, guys? I'm back. First of all, thanks so much for joining us here tonight. And special thank you to all of our amazing GND Slate candidates, the one that spoke, and the others who are also on this call here, listening in with us. We're going to win this together. We're going to win a Green New Deal together. So let's talk about next steps. First of all, if you're not in DSA, fix that. I'm dropping a link right now. Please click on that link and join this movement. Now, the second ask is to get involved with this campaign. We've been dropping the sign up link this entire call. We're going to drop it again. Let us know how you want to help. Do you want a phone bank? Do you want to work on research and comms? Do you want to learn how to be a peer-to-peer fundraiser and do onboarding? And when we're asking you to get involved, we're not just asking you to, you know, give money or attend a phone bank, which, to be clear, please do that. But we're asking you to like build this movement with us. When you show up to a phone bank, go to the field meeting and strategize on who we should be dialing and how we should be talking to them. Don't just make memes. Come to our comms meeting and like strategize about how we communicate our message. If you have the research skills, join our research committee and literally define what a GND means across the country. This is our campaign. We're going to build this together. Like, this meeting was not just a presentation. This is a work meeting. We want you to be part of this with us. There have been about 30 to 40 people working on this campaign so far. There's 400 people on this call. Let's go from 40 to 400. Let's build this movement together so that this time next year, we're going to call it 4,000 people, because that's what it's going to take to win, nothing less. And we need to keep growing. We need to get bigger. We need to get stronger, and we need to win together. This isn't one of those campaigns where we dial a bunch of people or go to a few rallies and then call it quits a few months later. This is the DSA priority campaign for how we're going to be building power for years. This is how we're going to win a Green New Deal, win Medicare for all, win free public college, win BDS, win our entire platform, and win the world. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Please, please, please get involved. It's been so great having you all here.
Thank you, everyone, for having us. Thank you so much for running, everyone. And I really hope that tomorrow you talk to someone about the things that you heard in this call. And you also give them that link. Lucas, Gustavo. This is the bloopers, the after section bloopers.
Thanks all for being on the call. Hello from the Hudson Valley, not far from Sarahana.
Amazing. We're waiting on a song. I'm excited. Mike,
so down and under pressure. I'm way too fine to be distressed, yeah. Oh, I'm not the girl I was or used to be. Bitch, I might be better. Turn up the music, turn down the lights. I got a feeling I'm gonna be alright, okay. Alright, it's about damn time. Turn up the music, let's celebrate. I got a feeling I'm gonna be okay, okay. Alright, it's about damn time. In a minute, I'ma need a sentimental man or woman to pump me up. Feeling fussy, walking in my Balenciennes, trying to bring out the fat bitch.